Hello and welcome to this video. I'm going to go over how to properly set up a Windows computer for virtual machines. One thing many people don't address is this idea of VM escaping. So what I want to do is go over a good way to isolate your machine to kind of prevent that to this Windows file system that hierarchy that I kind of created the other day. It's it's not going too in depth, but as you can see, this is a root file. This is the C drive, and you have subdirectories. You have your drivers, and then all the necessary drivers. You have another subdirectory, your program files, and then another one with Windows, System32 is the big one, and then your user profiles, and many more. I'm just giving a brief overview, and that is going to be that's all within your solid state drive or whatever a mass media that's installed on your computer. In my instance, it's a solid state drive. Now, if I were to do the usual way of just installing my virtual machines on my C drive, being the hypervisor software, whether it's like VirtualBox or VMware or Hyper-V, whatever it may be, that's still technically not isolated on my C drive on this entire solid state drive. Meaning, if there is some form of VM escaping, um, one can use directory traversal and access my personal data on my computer. Um, so what we want to do is prevent that, which is why the best way to go about it is to logically partition your solid state drive, your mass media in your computer, which is what we did in the last video. And when you do that, it's essentially like you're essentially breaking it in half and having two, logically, as opposed to physically installing two different drives. These two can no longer communicate with each other, right? So you have your C drive and then you have your D drive. And what you want to do is copy necessary files from the C drive to the D drive. Now, I said copy and not clone because there is a difference. And the big difference is with cloning and copying is a clone allows you to create an exact bootable replica of your drive. When you copy, all you're doing is selecting the necessary files to kind of replicate the Windows system, but not necessarily wanting to boot into that Windows system. So we're going to be copying all the necessary files that will run Windows, but won't necessarily show any PII, any personally identifiable information, meaning our user profile won't be loaded. uh, any software, if you have pictures, videos, whatever it may be. And when you do it this way, um, for example, if you are doing some form of penetration testing, in a way, if you find something and it needs to get audited, you're kind of in the clear because all that's going to be necessarily red taped is going to be this D drive, this separate drive. So all of your personal things can still stay on your local computer, and it'll be separate from whatever needs to be on legal hold. Um, and the reason why it's good to do this way is because, so here's the third version. So instead of putting it in the C drive, we're going to be putting it in the D drive. Is sometimes you don't know what you're going to be dealing with. You don't know what you're going to be installing. If you're working on this new project that's on GitHub, maybe you didn't go through all of the open source coding. Maybe you're downloading something, or maybe you're browsing the dark web and you click a link, and next thing you know, you have some malicious software that is essentially like a rootkit. It's going to be traversing outside of that machine. And what it can do is, if it can escape the virtual machine, it can basically act as ransomware. And not only will it live off the land and have some form of persistence at your root directory and potentially lock you out, but you'd have to wipe your entire machine. Um, so in this instance, what you're going to do is just wipe that D drive, and that's going to be totally separate from your C drive. So that's what we're going to be doing here shortly, and I'm going to walk you through all of the steps of how to properly configure uh, your mass media before actually getting the hypervisor and virtual machines on your system.